So Rachel is a 24-year-old from Sydney who has been investing for a couple of years, and we're going to be chatting about her investing goal or style. So firstly, Rachel, welcome to Get Started Investing.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So as we know, this episode is all about investing goals and styles. So let's start with the goal side of things. You've been investing for a couple of years. What was the motivation? What are you trying to achieve? A particular goal, or is this for something later in life?
Yeah, so I think, my goal, as I'm sure a lot of young investors' goal is for long-term growth. I want to retire very comfortably, and I can't necessarily do that with an advertising salary. So I do like to bolster that with a little bit of opportunistic investing. So yeah, I think majority of the assets that I hold, I intend to hold for at least another 30 years. And those that I don't intend to hold for 30 years, they're very, opportunistic investments where we're likely to see a ceiling of growth over the next 5 years. So I'll be probably cashing them out around then and having some fun with that.
Nice. And what was the tipping point to get you started investing a couple of years ago?
I think, probably the same as a lot of other investors. It was my dad. He prompted me to put that hard-earned money to work, essentially, and he suggested that I start with some very basic, very low-risk investments, which I think is the best way to go for a lot of new starters, particularly younger investors who might think that investing is a little bit tricky or difficult or risky. It's absolutely not, especially if you have guidance of someone who is much more, experienced than you are, or also an advisor, which I luckily, very gratefully have access to.
Well, let's talk about that. So you're investing for the long term. You want to retire comfortably. Sounds like you've got a sort of mix of assets that are going to be able to cash out in the next 5 years and some in the next 30 to 40 years. So what's the process or the style of investing, and how does that work in with your financial advisor?
Yeah, so the way that I invest is quite opportunistic. So I'm a creative strategist for my job. So I do a lot of cultural analysis and trend forecasting. So I kind of apply those learnings to my investing as well. So what I do usually, luckily I have access to an advisor. So what I do is I bring ideas to my advisor for him to kind of double check the numbers on and check whether these are viable options for me. But also what I do, which I think is really important and really kind of makes you feel more passionate about the types of investments that you do have, is I invest 85% with my head and 15% with my heart. So 85% of my investments are based on research and trends and, solid growth opportunities. And then the other 15% are based on passion or things that I'm really interested and passionate about. So whether it's fitness or travel or dating, then I kind of invest a small portion of my funds into those potentially lower growth opportunities.
Yeah, nice. I like the idea of certainly investing in things that are interesting and exciting to you, because that's going to keep you interested in investing in general. I like the idea of using your work and identifying cultural trends and thematics as a way of then moving that across to the investing world. Do you have an example that you could share?
Yeah, for sure. So one of my key holdings is Appen, which is an AI company. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, they're not doing too well because they're based in the US, and they're not doing too well. But they do have really huge clients, which will be needing AI and be continuing their partnership with Appen in probably the next 10 years. So I would say that is an opportunistic and trend forecasting type of buy. Another example would be Asana. So Asana is a workplace software company. I invested in Asana at IPO, which was, I think, last March. And that was just as lockdown was about to happen, or maybe it was during lockdown. But you can imagine that a lot of people will be needing, remote work software, cloud technology, so that they can basically keep working even though we're separated and apart during lockdown. So that has gone absolutely gangbusters. I've seen probably almost 350% increase on that stock, which has been awesome.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's kind of a really good example of, if you see a trend happening and you take advantage of it, then you can see some serious growth in your investments, which is awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Well done. Rachel, what is one of the biggest barriers that you faced when you started investing, or perhaps a myth that you thought about investing that is no longer true?
I'll go with a myth. I probably have two of them.
Sure.
The first myth that I heard is that you need thousands to invest. You absolutely don't. You obviously need money, but you don't need thousands. As my advisor says, every day is a good day to invest. So you can even start with, $50 to invest and use one of those micro investing platforms. And the second myth that I've heard is that it's really risky. Of course, it's risky if you don't do your research or if you don't ask for help. But if you actually put in the time and read on the internet, on different types of platforms, if you ask people who are more experienced, it's not risky at all. And also, if you invest in managed funds like ETFs, and it's a lot harder to fail.
Every day is a good day to invest. I love that. I think that's something I haven't heard before, but I think that's a great quote. So props to you and your financial advisor.
It's a good one. He also says to me sometimes when stocks are, dropping, he calls me up and says, Rachel, this stock's on sale. What do you think?
That's it. That's the Buffett move as well. Buy when others are fearful. So love that. What are some of the key resources or some of the best tools that you've come across on your investing journey?
Some of the best tools, obviously the internet. If you have access to an advisor is really helpful in terms of providing you information so that you feel more informed and confident about your investments. But I also use a brokerage platform, and I pay a monthly fee to access their in-app information, which I find really helpful. So any of the brokerage apps are really helpful in compiling those latest articles about the stock that you're looking at, who else is watching them, and it gives you guidance on whether to buy or sell or hold. So those are really worthwhile and so worth the fee.
Yeah, nice. And what would you suggest to people who are looking for a financial advisor? Worth it, not worth it? I know there's a lot of people out in the community who would be thinking about it, but are on that edge of, is it worth it or not?
I think it's absolutely worth it. It's particularly worth it if you have a partner, because then you can split all of those costs and kind of be advised on both of your money, whether it's separate or together. But yeah, I think it's completely worth it. It gives you that peace of mind and the confidence, relying on an expert before you invest, which is very beneficial.
Awesome. Well, Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your experience over the last few episodes. We very much appreciate your time and all the best with your investing journey.
Thank you. Bye.